Welcome to the Female CEO podcast, hosted by Mark Sephton. You may know her name, but do you know her story? This podcast takes you behind the titles and into the moments that shape some of today's most inspiring women. We explore the paths they've taken, the businesses they've built, and how they've created success on their own terms. Created by the Female CEO Create, Evolve, Overcome, these are honest, human conversations, rooted in real experience. Let the journey begin.
Welcome back to the Female CEO podcast. Today I'm joined by Kate Hobbs, founder of Insight with Kate, an intuitive empath, an energy healer, and a consultant who helps people and businesses identify what's holding them back and create meaningful change. But today we're going beyond the title, the business, and the success. We're talking about something I think so many women can relate to. What happens when you achieve the things you thought you wanted to, but somewhere along the way you lose yourself? How do we build a successful career, business, or relationship without compromising who we are in the process? Kate has a fascinating perspective on intuition, energy, confidence, and alignment. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this real, maybe uncomfortable conversation that me and you will have, Kate. But I think that how we create a life that actually feels as good as it looks is something I think we all want, isn't it? Welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation since we never know where it goes.
No, well, that's the beautiful thing. I think when I come across somebody like yourself, Kate, who's very intuitive and likes to speak from the heart and in their present without overthinking or kind of preempting, I always think that always makes the most rich conversations anyway.
Absolutely. I find my biggest problems are when I overthink and just spin in that. So training myself to just allow what comes in and go with that, even if it seems like it doesn't make sense, has been one of the best ways. It doesn't mean I don't overthink, because I absolutely overthink, but that's usually where I get tripped up.
Yeah, what's that saying? When you begin to think, you begin to sink.
Yeah, I actually haven't heard that, but that's how I feel in any capacity. Sure, it's great to deep dive on things, but when we, overthink, which is definitely something happens I'm a fast thinker. So the less time, and when I'm working with someone, it's easier for me just to be like, okay, what's pinging in here, and give you feedback in that way. So
Yeah.
That's what's working.
Another good one is, follow your heart, but take your head with you.
Yeah. So you're not, I definitely go with the heart space. A lot of people are like, no, that steers me wrong. But actually, I don't think it steers you wrong. I think it feels like it steers you wrong because you can be emotionally vulnerable. And a lot of people, that can feel uncomfortable. I follow my heart over like, oh, does this make sense? Probably not. But when it seems like it makes sense, it's not always that is the outcome you want.
Yeah, I'm very much the same in terms of leading by heart. I believe that if you follow your heart, you take bigger risks, but the reward and the fulfillment, more than reward, is what lays at the other end of following your heart. So while it is more risky, you may face more pain, more setback, more heartache, but also you'll experience greater joy, greater fulfillment.
100%. That's the piece for me where if you're just going by what you're thinking and logically, you lose some of that emotion. And that's where I think you can build a big business and get really driven, and it can still happen with your heart. But that's where I find that we're trying to pull that piece back in, the heart piece back into the fulfillment. Because if you're super successful, you can have both at the same time. But if you're losing your heart along the way, like that emotional piece, you can just like override it for a little bit. But then you're like, I'm here, but I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Like you want your heart back. And yes, you still can get hurt. But I always say I'm the person who would rather take that risk of looking like I care, because I do care. This whole idea, we've trained a lot of people in the relationship space. I'm segueing off here, but it's really important, the heart piece for me, of oh, I don't want them to think I like them, or I don't want them to think I care. That's like the biggest bunch of bullshit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say bullshit that I've ever heard, because you do care. This whole idea that like, I don't want them to think I like them. It just drove me crazy in that space of like, but then you're giving mixed signals. This is the stuff that makes no sense to me. And I think men and women have different thoughts on this, but I don't want to be around someone who's giving me, like, I don't want her to think I like her, or I don't want him to think I like him, or whatever the case, because I just don't even understand that concept.
It is interesting. I think that the key really is being true to yourself, and you should never abandon yourself to please somebody else. And I always think that that's where we make the biggest mistake, is when we're saying something to appease someone else, but to the detriment of ourselves, and we just can't do that.
I agree. And sometimes we're trying to not hurt somebody's feelings, or, all of that plays into it, which is, I wouldn't want to actively hurt somebody in that capacity. But at the same time, it's okay to also not understand what you're feeling. Maybe you're like, oh, do I like this? Do I not like this? And feeling it out is very different than, I know I don't like this, but I'm going to go along with it. Because exploring is different than actively going against yourself.
That's true. One thing that you talk a lot about, even though you haven't mentioned it yet, but it kind of works really nicely with what is, you talk a lot about alignment. And, as soon as we align to ourselves, true to ourselves, then it does become easier to align to other people and other opportunities, doesn't it?
Absolutely. As hard as it is to say no to something, it actually opens the doors. Because when you're showing the universe what you don't want, even though you may not know what exactly you want, the no is closing, it's funneling to you. It's creating a funnel of where you want to go, even if it's not conscious. Like, I know I don't, and it can be as simple as, no, I don't like that food, to where we're driving ourselves to say no. I'm working with someone who is looking for a new job, and something seemed really good, but it was so off that as soon as she said no, all these others flooded in. It's almost, I don't want to say it's a test, but it is can be a little bit of a test of like, hey, has she shifted her boundaries, in what they're looking for? And sometimes you do have to take that job that you may not want right then, but it leads you to the next thing of like, oh, wow, that really shows me what I don't want. So the no is just as important as the yes, if not even more so.
I like that. I think sometimes people have a better kind of deal with knowing what they don't want rather than what they do. It's kind of interesting. I know, like, for example, I am creative, but I'm not creative in terms of the old school thought of creativity, like drawing or designing like a place where I live. But I do know what I don't like. So I can tell you, I don't want this, I don't want that. But the ability to imagine and create what I do, I kind of need somebody else to see that. And then I'm like, yes, it's that.
Exactly. But that's super important, because you're giving direction to what you don't want is showing them what you do want. It's giving them guidance. And that's the same way in any piece of life of like, what is your purpose? What do you want in a relationship? It's the same thing. Your relationship with your home. I'm a huge environment person. And if you don't love where you live or feel safe where you are, safety is such a key piece in everything we do. Doesn't mean and I don't want people to be confused with, don't push yourself out of the box and take risk, but calculated risk is not reckless. Like, reckless to me feels terrible. I don't want to be in a reckless relationship. I don't want to be in a reckless business. I don't want to feel reckless, but taking risk to push your limits is always, that challenge of feeling uncomfortable is great in exploring the boundaries. Does that make sense?
It does totally make sense. I'm enjoying this, Kate, because I'm thinking about, let's just take, for example, like relationship. You want a relationship. We often hear about people talking about what they do want, but actually it's kind of an interesting thought process to maybe ruminate on the fact that maybe we should actually focus on what we don't want and allow kind of more expression. expression of the things that we do. Because I think sometimes when we're just hell-bent on a few things, we could miss some of the things that aren't inherently bad, but they're just not something that we've even given space for. But if we're eliminating, then what could be present could be even more beautiful.
Because if you allow it to be, here's what, like, I always tell people, and some people have a different thought process on the relationship piece, and we can put this towards anything in our life, whether it's health, success, your business career. I always I don't make people do anything, but I would say to them, please put down on your list of what you're manifesting things that are non-negotiable. And people joked with me, I have, not being a KKK member, and I've talked about this before on a podcast, on my non-negotiable list for a relationship. People are like, what? I'm like, but I'm serious. There are things that are not negotiable. And that is, for me, racism, like KKK, like not liking animals. I've also talked about this. We may have talked about this, but it's very important to have those. Those are fundamental, or how you deal with children if you're wanting children. Those are fundamental in your relationship. And this can be the same going into your career, your business choices, all of that. Because if you don't have those hard rock integrity pieces, you can get thrown off in the middle. You're like, wow, I really like this. I really like the sex. I really like this. Oh my gosh, she's this, she's that. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. I didn't know they don't like pets, or like they're like a complete this. That's where you're like, start to negotiate, because you have all these positive things happening. You start to wobble on if you don't have your own grounded foundation.
Definitely. It's a really good point. I really like it. I wonder if you can help us with alignment, Kate. How do we recognize the difference between generally really wanting something and simply pursuing it because we've been conditioned to believe that's what success really is supposed to look like, or that's the relationship I should be going for because that's what other people around us are telling us? How do we make the difference?
I like to, because I'm usually working with people once they've gone past what they didn't really like and trying to bring them back to where they originally were, which I would like people to come in before that sometimes. Because if we can start off sitting and getting quiet, I want you to feel quiet. That part where you start to get anxious of going, what do I want versus what somebody's telling me I want? What is society telling me? Like, at the end of the day, if today was your last day, feel that, like, what do I want? Do I just want peace? Do I really want the car because I love to drive fast? Or do I want the car because other people think it's super cool? Because you can love that feeling when you get in and you're like, I love the way everything feels, is very different than what other people are perceiving. Truly feel what makes you light up like fire. Like, I can't deal with bullshit conversations. Like, I actually want to jump out of my skin. When I was just at a wedding in Mexico, and you're always like, oh, am I going to resonate with who I'm sitting next to, or this or that? And then I met some really cool people, and I was at a different table, and I was like, oh gosh, I hope it works. And I had the greatest conversation, allowing the universe to put you where you are when you say, I'm going to meet who I'm meant to meet, and allow that to unfold. I always set that intention anywhere I go. I will meet today who I'm meant to meet. And sometimes it's meant to give somebody else a message. Sometimes it's meant for me to get a message. And maybe it's both in the same moment. That's when you have this like light up crazy synchronicity. So I hope that answered that, but I'm also segueing into that, finding your own alignment in that way, allowing the universe to help you instead of blocking it. By being too set, and as a Taurus, I'm a very fixed set person, but allowing it to come in to say, wow, my mind may not be able to go to all these places. By me showing you my no, you're pulling in what's really aligned in the higher self for me. Here's what I know I don't want. And maybe my mind it's like this or better.
Very good.
Like, I can't even think past there. I just know it'll be so exciting, like where you're like, I am blown away.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I love eliminating things anyway. It's like I love choice, but I also like to get stuff out of the way. So I'm like, right, this is what I'm left with.
Yes, because I like a lot of things, but like I don't like golf.
It's too slow.
Like it's way too slow for me. I can play mini golf.
Yes, I'm the same.
That works. So those are the pieces where even just like those little things help people get back in alignment. Like working with people who've been in a relationship, especially a toxic long-term male or female, they lose themselves in that survival space of I'm just here to get through the day. So I'm not going to think about what I want. I'm just managing in that fight flight stage of I don't want to disrupt this person. I'm just getting by. And it's bringing them back to that. What do you want? And then when you light yourself up, fill yourself with that light of what makes you lit up, you pull in things, and I always tell people, be prepared because you're going to walk outside and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, everybody's seeing me. They're looking at me. And I've worked with someone who's like, every person is coming up to me and like I think they're hitting on me. They're magnetized by you. So that's really exciting. But I want people to be aware it can happen really quickly. And that's, for me, I'm a big energy mover. You probably don't want to work with me if you don't want things to move more quickly. That's just part of my makeup. I'm a fast person and my energy moves quickly. And I actually go back to this Mexico wedding. I met somebody sitting by the pool and we were having just a hello conversation and they had a dog and he said 3 things to me: a location, a name, and an activity. And I go, is your daughter 5'2" and blonde and lives in California? And he was like, yes. He was a very scientific engineer and his head kind of blew off. And I had met his daughter like 4 years ago.
Wow.
At a like somebody who was much younger than me's wedding. And he was like, how did you put that? I'm like, that's just how my brain works like a computer. And he, as an engineer, he was just like, I just can't comprehend. So anyway, that's yeah, you could imagine. But he was such a kind person. I tell this story because it's hard to explain, but it could be tripped out or enamored. That's why when you're working with me, I want to prepare you. That's how it goes. In lifetime, I showed him. He was like, what is happening? Are you following me? Did you come here to stalk me? No, I did not. So I'd like to tell that.
That's a great story. It's great when you shock and awe people like that, especially an engineer or a scientist, and they can't make logics of it, because I always think that, emotions aren't logical. Logic isn't emotional. It's the same for energy too. It doesn't always make sense because it actually bypasses the brain. It's not about a brain thing. It's about a heart thing. It's about an energy thing.
We're meant to have this conversation. And I can tell you that when you first meet me and then all of a sudden that happens, it's the universe intervening. That's all I can say. And the biggest help in my own gift ability is stop overthinking it and just ask you, Mark, questions. Or if I'm, I don't know why I'm asking you that. It's just what came in. And you're like, what? It doesn't always make sense what comes in. And you'll hear this with other mediums and, people where they're just like, this is what I'm getting. And you're like, whoa. And if I didn't allow myself to sound slightly crazy, we wouldn't be having that connection. Because the other side, it doesn't always make sense what's coming in. And it's okay.
Yeah.
The judgment.
Because you're just the messenger.
Just the conduit to get the message through.
I think so many high achieving people can relate to the idea of achieving things while quietly losing themselves along the way, Kate. Has there been moments in your own life where you've realized this isn't actually what I want anymore? And what did you do about it?
Yeah. And usually, for example, right now, I've been getting stirring and I posted about it, stirring of moving, like physically moving my house. And now with my animal that hasn't been feeling well, I'm convinced it's an energy piece of moving. And I'm not saying the universe is having him get sick, but these are all components to where it sends you somewhere else. I don't always know. I'll just get this message to okay, I've got to move somewhere else. So that's an alignment piece geographically. There's also that with maybe I'm working with a client and we're just not resonating. But that's more of like, is this what I want to be doing in the coaching space? Yes, it is, or no, it isn't. And it can be, sometimes it's a complex question of, are we in alignment, or are we done here? Does that answer that?
Yeah.
And, the other piece is, I've lost myself in relationship before in this. I'm going to take it back to the relationship piece where I stayed too long to where I was managing my own energy to stay in the space. Horrible. I don't like to ever say never. I'm not doing that again. Thinking that the love was there, but it was to where we were needing different things. And it was just, I actually felt like I was physically dying. And I believe I was on the verge of very, very sick, very not well, like super sick, like drove myself to the Mayo Clinic sick. So that energy, because someone like me who's highly energetic and people I work with that have unexplained physical stuff, a lot is that emotion that's not being released. And I was physically making myself sick from staying in that space.
It's not worth it.
100%. No. And I used to say love was enough. You have to have it going in both directions, but the love was there, but there was blocking happening energetically. And so when that's happening, my energy was turning against itself because I was self-abandoning, and my energy, the powerful energy, was going against myself, and actively, I feel like I was killing myself. So that was a very dark, dark space of that. And I had to learn the hard way that love has to go in both directions. It cannot be, even though the love was there, but if the person was blocking the love because of their own issues, meaning blocking the love, I could feel the love. So I was like, oh, we just need to do this and do that. And it was just it was like a brick wall. So that turned that energy I was giving out against myself, if that makes sense.
It does. I mean, for me, you're talking a lot about intuition. You're talking a lot about your nervous system, talking a lot about, your values. And, a lot of us, we have that gut feeling about maybe a person or a business decision or a relationship or a direction that we should take. But then people then often talk themselves out of it. What do you think happens, Kate? Why do people lose trust in their intuition, and what can they do to learn to hear it again?
So I'm going to use that example again. I was saying my intuition must be wrong because I thought this person loved me. It wasn't that they didn't love me. It was my personal energy was causing such a truth energy that they weren't ready for it, that specific relationship. And I had to rectify it in my head of saying they didn't love me. My intuition is wrong. My intuition doesn't work. And that wasn't what was happening. I didn't want to look at the reality of if I showed this person love and that they were so magical from wherever they were coming from, that it would work. That wasn't the case. So to get back to that, I had to fully remove myself from the space and ground my own energy back into finding someone to work with. And I worked with somebody incredibly magical for years, saying to me, it wasn't your intuition being wrong. And you do need a truth person. When you're coming out of something this catastrophic, you need someone to say, no, Mark, your intuition wasn't wrong. This is what was happening. They weren't ready, or this wasn't meant to be in that space. You can only, it's that saying of you can bring a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. Mark, your intuition is correct. The love is there. You can't force someone to be ready for the love that you're willing to give. Everybody has to do their own work. It's same in, somebody's been married for 10 years. If somebody's growing at a faster rate, there can be a discord to where you start to go in different directions. That doesn't mean the love wasn't there. The love can absolutely been there the entire time, but you're growing at different rates. And that's where you can see a separation or a break, or you can still love and say, we're going in different directions. So to me, it's about finding that person that can help you go, what is really happening here? Because in your own head, I could be like, my intuition is off. I'm a terrible person. This wasn't this. I didn't do this. That's not what happened. You need a truth person. Because I started to go against my own self, and that's where I got really sick.
Yeah, we should never abandon ourselves. Like, we have to come back to ourselves. I think one of the practices I've really been working on this year, Kate, is coming back to myself. So every night before I get into bed, I kind of just feel into my body. I check in on myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do this thing at night or also in the morning where you let go of the day. I mean, I've done some posts about it. Like, I'm releasing anything that is not mine to carry. I'm releasing anything that is no longer serving me from this day, seen or unseen. Then you're going to bed without that weight going into your dreams, into wherever you are, because it may not be physically in your presence. It may be just running in your head, but that way you're saying, I'm not taking this with me, because it piles up, the energetics of that pile up. And it just feels like you can actually feel it when you get into bed, when you do that. And the same can go as in the morning. You can wake up and be like, all right, I'm waking up. I'm going to put my feet on the ground. As soon as I put my feet on the ground, I'm releasing anything that I may have picked up wherever I've been that's not serving me in my highest good.
What would you say that you're being asked to let go of at the moment in your life? Is there anything specific?
I guess I would say it's the self-judgment. Self-judgment to me is always something as a driven A-type personality that I just continue like, okay, don't be so hard on yourself. Show me something, show me a new direction, show me where I'm going. If this is meant to be like with the move piece that I'm really thinking about moving, show me. Light up whether it's like I'm watching a TV show and they say the name of the location, or if it pops up on the internet, show me some options. It comes in very quickly.
Do you know where that comes from? Your challenge with that of that kind of being hard on yourself?
I think it's just the driven over analyzing, being better. I find it with a lot of people that, for me, I want to be better in a way. If I'm better, I can, I can also help people. But better for me, it's that judgment of like not being good enough. Even as in school or as a kid, you just feel that like, we're always measured, right? So that like being better, but being better for yourself in the evolvement, in the alignment, being like better for me. Like I can accept where I am. And this is a key piece in coming out of a relationship, a job, whatever it is. You can acknowledge where you are. Or let's say somebody wants to lose weight, whatever it is. I accept where I am before I'm moving on to the next phase. It's that gratitude. I can still be grateful for where I am and still want to go somewhere else. We get this spiritual bypassing bullshit of like, I'm just grateful for everything. Well, maybe you're not. It's okay to say I'm grateful for this, but like this feels like shit. Because otherwise this like, oh, I'm so grateful that no, that's just not true. And that's the part that definitely for me with a lot of the social media and the healing space is like crazy making of, I can be grateful for this and still be upset about that. It doesn't make me not grateful. I can have a terrible day and still be a grateful person.
Definitely. There's a difference, isn't there, between doing something and being something. You can spill a glass of water over. It doesn't mean that you're clumsy.
Right. And we're seeing so much of this in the healing space that has become such a big, big business. It's not always so dramatic. It doesn't have to be. It can be. You can have this like magical pool interaction and synchronicities. And then you can also have very subtle, like walking by a person on the street and they say one sentence to you and you're like, oh my gosh, that was the message I needed to hear. It doesn't have to be this flailing on the ground, catastrophic, like weird sexual shit that I'm seeing all over the place. And I'm a big fan of sexual activity and all of these pieces, but like in the right capacity is that healing. There's so much of that going on. And this like love and light, everything's magical. No, it's actually not. So it does get me a little bit fired up because when people are in real need and feeling almost desperate for help, there are predators. And anybody who tells you that they're not, that's just not true. There's light and there's dark. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see the light. Like it's we're here on Earth.
Yeah. We've only got a few minutes left. I mean, the time's flown, hasn't it?
I know, Mike, I don't even, again, I'm not going to remember what I'm saying because it's just like flying out.
I know. And that's when that it comes from within rather than from the head, because you have no recollection, which has been a lot of what we've talked about, and relationally, we've talked a lot about relationship, both with self and with others. But a successful relationship with others always comes from that relationship with self, right? And this is what we've really been double downing on today.
Yeah, getting back to you. And I'll circle back on that piece because some people are like, but I don't like me. I'm talking about the little, like way back when, before all the gunk was put on top or picked up along the way. Because even I've said that myself. I'm like, but maybe I didn't like me in that space. We're going way, way, way back to the deeper, like, beginning. Because that's sometimes hard for people. They're like, but what happens if I don't like myself? I'm talking about like way before all of that stuff happened.
Yep. I think that's an important journey to go on. And I also think it's always good to ruminate on the other side of the coin, which is, what happens if I love myself?
Yeah. That's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Like, I can love myself and still have things go on. There's this illusion that you get to a certain vibration or you're loving yourself and everything's going and you're like, you get zapped. I always call it like almost like the retrograde slap of, what did I do? It's not even anything you do. There's plenty of people, high, super successful people in the energy space, in the vibrational space, that have crazy shit go on. So just because you're moving along in a super fabulous way doesn't mean something negative, seemingly negative, can't happen.
Exactly.
So it's still, we're moving along. It's the earth world here. Like, even at a high level, there's still things that go on, whether it like seemingly keywords, seemingly trip you up. It's a constant learning. That's how you know you're living in my world, because I don't want to say it has to be always difficult. That's not what I'm saying. But there's always evolving. I love the onion, like really peeling the onion of like, wow, you know what? Something else happened, but I'm dealing with it differently. I'm handling it differently. I'm not being like, okay, completely catastrophic moment. Like, oh, they gave you your coffee wrong. You're not like, some people might like flip out, but really you're just like, okay, what's going on here? Instead of this, you're evolving, you're growing, you're at the next evolution.
Excellent, Kate. Do you want to share one real final thought maybe that's coming to you intuitively as we bring this to a conclusion? I
would say there's always hope. In moments where, even this week with my animal who's been in the ICU for two days of just like so much uncertainty, finding that person or your own self. And to me, I do think to get feedback from somebody is extremely important, but finding that trusted person that can say, hey, here's hope. There's always hope. There's always another way. And anybody who tells you this is the final, this is it, no. Find someone else. I think
there's a verse that says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. I think, we all need to have that belief that better days are coming, that we can grow, we can heal, we can expand, we can rewrite the story, we can end strong, regardless of the hand we've been given, or the current challenge. Things are temporary and not permanent.
Yeah, and just say, even if it's as simple as, show me something different, show me a sign, or, ask for a feather. I know that sounds completely nuts, but really just like, if you're out walking, show me something where you're connecting to a higher, whatever you believe in. This isn't a religious message, whatever religion, spirit, God, whatever you're talking to, higher power, show me differently. Ask for help. Yeah. That's what I would say. And end on that and put it out there in a definitive question. Like, show me this, show me which direction, kind of like the moving, show me in that manner. And you will receive, and you're welcome to message me saying you did.
Do that. I encourage people to do that.
Do it. Let me know.
Exactly. Kate, it's been great to have you on the Female CEO podcast.
Thank you.
Appreciate your insights and and that beautiful heart of yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Female CEO podcast, created by the Female CEO Create, Evolve, Overcome. This podcast amplifies women's voices, stories, and lived experience. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on our YouTube channel, and discover more at thefemaleceo.com.